Welcome to EFT MBA Mastering Business Acumen with the help of EFT business experts. Learn the marketing, mindset, and skill set you need to create the EFT coaching practice of your dreams. Visit www.eftmba.com for more information. And now, here's the EFT training team that embodies the art and science of EFT. Alina Frank and Dr. Craig Weiner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show, Resolving Sticky Business Partnerships. We've all had partnerships, collaborations, joint ventures that are easy and fun, like the one that I have with my husband.
Thank you.
But if you're in business long enough, you're likely to also have experienced just the opposite. And I know this is a big challenge because I work with coaches on this one all the time. So we're going to go over how to resolve these relationships and identify when it's likely to happen and those sorts of things. And so we really think this is an informative show that many people will really get a lot of use out of.
And EFT coaches, you know what? Part of what we love to do is to create making life easier and sharing responsibilities and having people that we can collaborate with that have similar visions. So it's a very common enterprise, expenditure of energy to try to accomplish something great and divvy up the responsibilities. So,
right.
We see it and partake in it all the time.
Yeah, and I think that it's also a natural thing to do is to create alliances and joint ventures with people when you're the type of person that needs some stimulation and engagement with other people. You're working usually in a room with one-on-one clients all day long, and so that ability to collaborate with a colleague or find someone that in an allied field to do joint ventures with is something we absolutely promote in the EFT MBA program.
Yeah, and partnerships might be you're putting on a workshop together or training together or giving a lecture together or you're creating some audio or video or something or telesummit or so many different ways in which you're partnering up with another person to create something.
Yes.
Some way that you're reaching out through your EFT practice to be able to reach people.
Absolutely. All right, so, we've had our share of those experiences that were less than ideal. And so what we want to start off with, and this is in really big font, bold letters, exclamation points, is that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, especially when it comes to this, right, Craig?
Absolutely. Why not be able to learn from our past mistakes, implement things up front so we don't have to deal with a really hard, sticky, yucky, I don't want to deal with this kind of stuff. So better to prevent it, right?
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but definitely we want to move in that direction. Yeah,
and we're always looking for how to make improvements in our EFT MBA program. And so with this fall course, so get your applications in, go to EFTMBA.com. The next course will actually include a whole section on risk management with EFT tapping legal expert Midge Murphy. And that's really because of this whole thing of prevention. Prevention regarding all kinds of miscommunications with clients, with eyes looking at promotional material, with your business partnerships that thrive are not focusing on today, though we love them. What we're talking about, what I'm saying is that partnerships that thrive and are easy are really not the focus of what we're going to be talking about today. But we're going to be talking about the times that it is necessary to resolve them, and it's been a challenge. But you can do a lot in terms of really preventing this from happening.
And when you're starting a practice or getting a practice off the ground, which is, what we help a lot of people through, coaches with the MBA, is how to not waste a lot of energy in things that take you in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of your emotional and physical energy, let alone finances, to go in the wrong direction. So how do we avoid them? And once you're in them, how do you resolve them? And if you can't resolve them, how do you release them?
Yeah.
So that's really what we're going to go through today.
Yeah. So what are some of the signs that things are on the way downhill? They're heading in the wrong direction with a partner or joint venture.
You know what? In any type of relationship, communication is a biggie, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
So if a person is not getting back to you right away by telephone or by email, and you're like feeling like, hello, where are you? I need an answer. You're not getting back to me. You didn't respond fully to that last question. I'm starting to feel like something's off. That's always a biggie, right?
Yeah, I would say, and and we're going to get into even before getting into a partnership, but this is the sign that things are going wrong. The communication is not there. You're avoiding them or they're avoiding you,
right.
And you feel that. Okay, and the next one?
That you guys, that there's some agreements that you've come up with, but people aren't keeping to them.
Yeah.
Right? You said you were going to do this, or I said I was going to do this. I'm not doing that, but you said by Monday you would do that, and it's definitely not Monday. It's a week after that.
Right.
So somehow you had some agreements that you came up with, which we'll talk about, but they're not being held. Agreements are not being held the way they said they would.
Right. Here's another one that we see quite frequently is that there becomes a significant discrepancy in bringing in new business. So let's say that the focus of your collaboration is for it to be win-win. Everybody pulls their weight in bringing in new business, and to promote this and to get it out there and to talk individually to people to get them to sign on board for your program or emails or whatever, and that's just not happening on one end or the other. Now, this could be part of your agreement is that, one of you will do the marketing aspect of it and the sales aspect, and someone else and the other person will handle all the administrative or the creation of the project or the launch or whatever it is.
Right.
So that can be part of the agreement, but if it's like, no, we're going in this 50-50, we're all going to go in giving 100% to really making this thrive and have people signing up, and that's not happening, then that's a sign.
Yep. How about you both started off looking in a similar direction as far as what you want to accomplish in your field? We want to work with this demographic. We want to be able to create a teleclass and a this and a that. But after a couple months, you know what? I'm really feeling like we should move in this direction. And the other person's going, yeah, but you know what? I'm really feeling drawn in this direction. And my energy, I feel going in that way. And all of a sudden there's a division of energy, time, and focus.
Yep.
And your original visions are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
Another one is that one of you makes unilateral expenses without a prior agreement to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you know what, both financial and maybe they met with somebody but didn't tell you they were going to do it first, and that created comfort. So
yes.
Doing things unilaterally that feel yucky afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings us to really the top sign that things are heading downhill is a gut feeling that there's something that's off. There's already a feeling like, oh, my gosh, this is another, anytime there's interaction, there's a gut feeling. Or you're about to sign on the dotted line and there's a gut feeling that you should hold off. Or when you're doing the actual program, if there's anything that doesn't feel completely joyous and fulfilling and exciting about it, there's something wrong, and that's a good thing to pay attention to.
Yep. So those are ways that, will typically show up that you're already in some sort of collaboration and something's off and something needs to change.
Absolutely.
But how do we talk about, or when we talk about, preventing that from getting there?
Yes.
Let's talk about ways to prevent sticky business partnerships.
Yes.
So what are ways to make sure it doesn't happen as best that you can?
Yeah. So number one is to really check the other person and their business references to see how their partnerships have gone in the past. And sometimes, especially in this business, it's so much about the person because It could be that, you're both starting out, you're both coaches, you don't even have an LLC yet. Then you want to check personal references, right? People that have done work or partnerships or let's say volunteered on a team or something, because you might not have a heck of a lot of business references. But we know that if there are some relationships that when we decided that we really needed to have the show, we were looking at our challenges in the last few years in terms of that, and if we had really sat down and checked reputations of people, then we really would have questioned going into partnership with certain businesses, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's really useful to find out other ways that it worked and didn't work, and how it ended, and are they on good terms. All of those things are very useful.
Right. Okay, so a second way of really preventing this from happening in the first place is that you have agreements and legally binding contracts before you invest any time, money, or energy, because guess what? Things do go wrong. So, yeah, but it's a good friend, or, yeah, but I really like their aura, just isn't going to cut it in today's world. You've got to make legally binding agreements, and when things are really, really clear, then it's easy. We've talked about boundaries. This is a boundary. If you don't have these sorts of agreements, then it's just going to be really sticky if something goes wrong. And we just had that. We just made a $2,500 mistake a few months ago, and we're entering into a new contract with a business actually immediately following the show. And the contract that's waiting for me on my computer talks about things like delay of the job, and it's very, very specific, and overages, and things like that about who owns what in the project at the completion. I mean, this is a really nicely done terms and conditions agreement. And boy, if we had this with the company that we just had our challenge with, wow, it would have just eliminated all of the problems we ended up having.
You mean we messed up?
We totally messed up. Yeah, we want you to learn from our mistakes. We've been there. Yeah.
All right, transparency, the name of the game, right? So we make the mistakes and we learn from them and share them with you. That's the way it works.
Yep.
Okay, and then you don't make them again, right? That's really the key of learning and wisdom.
Right.
Okay, next, discuss in advance what happens when something goes wrong, right? So in advance, we're putting this together. When that goes wrong, when this goes wrong, so if we have a miscommunication, how do we handle it? Do we do it by email? Do we do it by phone? What happens if there's some emotional stuff involved, depending on what type of business relationship you have? Really think that out, just like Alina was saying with that contract. Some of it is contractual. Some of it is just personal. If we hit a snag, if somebody does something the other person doesn't like, how do we resolve that? Mm-hmm. How do we work with that? And that's really important. That'll just help so much by agreeing to that in advance. And it'll also flush out styles of conflict resolution. One person might say, you know what, I really need some space. Like if you do something and it ticks me off, I'm going to need a day or two, and that's really healthy for me to have that and then come back to you. And the other person will be like, if you disappear like for 2 days, that's going to trigger me. So whatever you need to know about each other's conflict resolution style, really important to talk about in advance and before you hit it.
Absolutely. Yep.
What else?
Well, I think this goes along with that, which is that if you have the same sort of work, if you're both, like, let's say you're both doing EFT out there, then you need to have a discussion and agree upon how you will both proceed after the dissolution, right? Right.
Like, in other words, what are the things that how do you move forward in a good way afterwards?
Right.
Good.
Okay, so what to do when things start to go wrong?
Something's not happening. They're not responding. They didn't get back to me. You know, this is just like a bad relationship and a romantic relationship, right?
Yep.
So so many of the people that we've worked with, the clients in the MBA program and personal clients, what we find is by the time that you're feeling ready to make a change or ready to leave the relationship, ready to change something, it probably wasn't the first time. It probably wasn't the first time in that relationship.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't the first time that it's ever happened before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, I had somebody who's one of my mentors, and when I was discussing the ending and dissolution of a contract, they just looked at me and they said, "You've had all kinds of intuitive hits that this was no good from the very beginning, so now pay attention and just do it and end it." So I was resisting, and I see, in my private practice, I focus on romantic relationships. In fact, we have a whole program called When to End It, and so about romantic relationships. So we see this all the time. And if finances are part of it, then of course it's gonna feel you're gonna want to make all kinds of concessions and keep going and let's try and let's fix it and let's da 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 da. And sometimes you just know it's time to end it.
Yeah.
But if you had seen things along the way, then you could have maybe prevented it. So if you find that you are having fear of communicating what is happening, and then you absolutely need to do EFT on this. Absolutely tap on what's coming up about the problem, your fear of communicating, your fear about being very, very clear and direct with your communication about what you're feeling is happening.
And, of course, that tapping, whether it's a fear of their leaving the business relationship, whether it's a fear of their disrespecting you, whether it's a fear of all those things, you tap on how you're feeling in this current relationship, and guess what's likely to come up? Hate to say it, but probably not the first time, and it's probably going to lead you to tapping to other past experiences in which you felt disrespected, not listened to, abandoned, etc. So you already know that, though.
Okay, so we have seen that there is a I can't name how many times I've helped someone tap on an email they've gotten, right? And an email that they sent out which was misinterpreted. So we're talk about clarity. You've got to be clear, and so a conversation on the phone, face-to-face conversation about the issues that are peeking out of and wanting to be addressed. Do that whenever possible. And if you need to send an email, what you really need to do is don't send it until the next day. When you're upset, it's not a good time to tap. I mean, it's not a good time to send it. It's a good time to tap. And then when you feel clear and have someone else read it and see if it's neutral enough, then send it. But there are so many ways to misinterpret emails that it really is. If you can, do the conversation face-to-face or on the phone, because on the phone you could even be tapping while you're having this discussion if you're feeling triggered.
Right.
All right. And then last but certainly not least, this is very important. We want you all to hear this, that you need to use this opportunity of a business challenge to discover your core wounds, your core issues, those beliefs that you have, especially if this is a situation which has happened before. So for me, when I really took this on and said, okay, everything that happens to me, I am completely responsible for on some level energetically. What is that? Let me clean that up. When these things happened, to me, I found things like I was feeling insecure about would I be good enough to do this stuff on my own, right? Or that I needed the support of someone else. That things like what was another good one? I'm trying to think of one from my practice working with other coaches. Like they know something that I don't. Like they know the technology and I'm afraid of the technology, or they know the social media piece and I'm afraid of that social media piece. So you could be tapping on those fears and resolving them, and then you don't feel that you can't walk away. Another one is, and I hear this one so often, is someone else stealing intellectual property. So they entered into a relationship or an alliance, or they're just someone that they know in the field, and they're stealing their things, right? They're stealing all kinds of information, and they're not attributing it to the person who actually created it. So, and those are indications very often of some deeper wounds of, somebody stole, on the playground, somebody stole my truck, stole it, and they said it was theirs.
Amazing. Questions go on and on and on.
Exactly.
Love it.
All right.
So what do we do when we're basically, something's going wrong?
It's ready to end.
Is it time to end it?
Yeah, well, yes. It's time to end it when things aren't changing, and so how long does this take before you really see the writing on the wall? I would say that after a few months you get a good sense of how things are going. Something that we didn't say at the front of this show at the very beginning, Craig, was that it's really great to do a trial.
Yes.
Yeah, do a trial run with someone. Don't commit to a year-long thing with someone that you've never done business with. Do a month or a teleclass or a 6-week series. Don't commit yourself to anything longer than that without having kicked the tires and really felt things out.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
But if you've done all the things that we said,
yep,
and you've tried to find a resolution, the problems keep happening,
yep,
your gut feeling is like, this is not serving me anymore, I've
yep,
done everything I can, then what do you do to find some resolution in a good way?
Yeah.
All right, number one, we talked about it, but number one, tap. Right? So tap on the disappointment, tap on the grief of letting go, depending on how long the relationship was. Any difficulties in letting it go and surrendering it. It was a great idea. You guys had heart and vision and passion, and now it's dead in the water.
Right.
Right? So whatever comes up with all of that, tap on it, take responsibility for the part that you can for your feelings and your resolution.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Number two.
Yes, agree to come together for a meeting to finalize dissolution and in advance prepare in writing all the points of the business that need to be addressed to find completion. So having that write up at the beginning before any of this happens is really valuable. But coming together and trying to close it in a good way is always valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sending those to each other to make sure all the points are agreed to ahead of time. It's easier. There's no emotionality with you being able to write and send it, et cetera. That makes it, or that minimizes it, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Going to drop some kind of written dissolution agreement and signed and dated. If there's any significant assets involved, equipment, financial, all of those things, I'm going to recommend that you get an attorney review the agreement for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And, that is also, like Alina was saying, intellectual property. What about the URL? What about the email list? What about the recordings that you guys started to make some projects with? So all of those things in your agreement, bring those together, come together with a written agreement that's signed and dated, and, have to recommend an attorney review that.
Right? Yep.
Okay, Midge Murphy would slap my hand if I didn't say that, and because she knows that that can lead to problems, and you want to avoid that.
Yes.
Last,
you may wish to perform some kind of ritual or ceremony that enables you energetically or spiritually to really find a sense of completion, of personal resolution, that this was meant to be for a period of time, that you work together, and that you release that completely free of feeling of betrayal or resentment or anger that may be lingering, and absolutely using EFT along the way to help you do that in a beauty way is a good life lesson. All of these things happen for your greatest and highest good, for you to find what this is really about, for you to heal parts of yourself. And if you see it as a learning opportunity, then it's all good. Even a $2,500 learning lesson was good, because we really learned so much from the experience.
Actually, we did. We really, really did.
Yep.
So, okay.
All right.
So why do we, lastly, I just want to end, we just get so much great feedback from this show that I just want to say why we do this. You know what? Why we do this show is we love working, through the MBA program on the business, the marketing, but you see how rich that is in growing your practices. Everything from partnerships to your niche, to all the things we talk about on the radio show, and we give you bits and pieces, but we really spend one-on-one time with you in a great program at the MBA, which we're starting in November. It's a 6-month program for new practitioners, whether you're certified or not, for beginning practitioners that have been out there that are looking to revamp and refocus. So
wait a minute.
Wow. Did I fly?
You said new practitioners. We have people that are trainers that have been through our program.
We have all of it.
We've had people that have been in the practice of EFT longer than I have.
That's true.
So it's not just new practitioners. It's if you really want to get it to the next level,
right,
professionally, financially, if you've been struggling and you just can't find the forest for the trees, or you do know what your own issues are, but you need some consistent tapping and help along the way, then that's what we're for.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
All righty, everybody. See you next show.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And remember to,
I think, keep on tapping.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
You have been listening to EFT MBA with Elena Frank and Dr. Craig Weiner. To get your free report on the 5 secrets to create a rockin' EFT practice and to learn more about the EFT MBA program, visit www.eftmba.com.